This is the part of the program where we dig a bit deeper behind the headlines with our guest commentator who will help us explore the stories and issues of the day. And today we have the current affairs analyst and professor of communications at Bayes University in Abuja, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi. Prof, good to see you. Thank you very much for coming in. Let's start with Kano and the political situation there. A bit volatile but calm. What are your thoughts?
Kano is traditionally a very politically sensitive state and can easily get charged by anything that seems unusual. And of course, we've been told by attorneys, that justice or judgment sometimes can be different from public opinion. And Kano, like we know it traditionally or over the years and even in recent years, is a place where you can actually predict where the direction of victory will go. And we saw it happen in the last election. So what appears to be happening now, we're seeing the judiciary trying to give us a different interpretation based on points of law. And it seems to be at variance with popular expectation. The good thing is that there's an opportunity for redress to go to the next stage of adjudication, the appeal courts, and after that, probably, if parties are still dissatisfied, they will go to the Supreme Court. But the message is just telling us overall, especially with stories, reports of violence, is that we need to be careful with some of this outcome, that we are coming out with. Overall, what we want is a sustainable, consolidated, deepened democracy that will be devoid of unnecessary violence or avoidable violence. And I don't think there's any violence that can actually pay us at this time where our economy is at the doldrum, But again, we'll have to wait until the process is concluded. The stages are still on, but in the meantime, we just have to be careful and sensitive and call on security agencies to up their ante and prevent the unnecessary destruction of properties in Kano.
But on a personal level, are you surprised by the decision of the trial?
Yeah, I was definitely surprised,
because the impression that was given was that the NNPP carried the popular consent of the people.
And that's what I was saying. I said, well, the judiciary can sometimes be different. The outcome can be different from popular opinion, popular expectation, It was actually surprising because, at the time we duped Kwankwaso, the city boy, the Kwankwasiya movement is well grounded in that place, and we're actually wondering what magic he performed in Kano to make him that popular. Whichever direction he asks them to go, they will go. And Kano has always had that tradition of coming up with sages, political beacons, paragons, that tend to define the direction that they will go. Don't forget the popular Aminu Kano. Of course, we also had Abubakar Rimi, and now it seems to be the time of Rabbi Musa Kwankwaso. And people were actually, conceding to him that he holds the ground in Kano, and they are still continuing argument over who actually won the 2019 governorship election. But it is what it is now. Maybe times have come for changes, but those changes will be better if they come through the instrument of the ballot, not necessarily through the instrument of the judiciary. And it will remind us again of what President Jonathan once said, that maybe we should come to a stage where the judiciary will not be determining leaders for us. They should rather just ask for a rerun or another election, so that at the end of the day, legitimacy will flow really from the people rather than from the wisdom, of a few people, rightly coming as adjudicators in the form of judges or justices, as the case could be.
Yes, absolutely. And we've heard a lot about the divisions within the NNPP itself. Do you think
No, I don't think division. This is a matter of judiciary versus. Division couldn't have affected anything. If you look at the division itself, it came from people who were not necessarily members of NNPP, right, from Kano itself. They were from outsiders, so to say.
Yeah, but I wonder whether that might have watered down the strength of their unified case at the tribunal.
But Charles, that couldn't affect the judgment of the judiciary. The election was
everything depends on
the crisis started
evidence
after
you present.
That's right. The crisis started after the elections and after the results. So that's event that came afterwards. Not necessarily before or even during. So it's a surprise, really, and we'll just wait and see.
Yeah. Well, let's turn to Imo State, another place with well, one place with lots of insecurity.
Yeah.
And it's worrying, isn't it? Because the elections are coming up in less than 2 months.
Very, very troubling, very, very disturbing, and you'll be surprised. It's also surprising that the perpetrators have become much more fiendish, much more emboldened, reminding us of the then intransigence of Abubakar Shekau as the leader of Boko Haram, you know. I mean, we've seen videos where they came openly with their faces uncovered, daring the Nigerian military, and maybe they are just living up to their promise, you know, by unfortunately and very disturbingly attacking security agencies. You know, it's actually very worrisome, and that's why we have to continue to pray and hope that the government will move in quickly. And moving in, because they're already moving in anyway, but moving in using the kinetic means, you know, seems to be unproductive in my own opinion. I think we should concentrate more on the kinetic or the non-kinetic means, you know. Let's find ways of assuaging the feelings of those who are supposedly aggrieved. Let's just find, you know, ways of mitigating the danger, you know, posed by these continuous frontal attacks on our agencies and, of course, on innocent civilians. And there are so many things that can be done, really. You know, these people, I've said it on this show before, that they are not spirits. They are humans like us. They are listening to us. They are looking at everything that is happening. And that's why I also agree largely with what the professor said, you know, that yes, there probably will have been some long-term factors that led to this feeling of marginalization, exclusion, the lack of integration, and the lack of proper political representation. You know, these things can be long-term, but in the meantime, in the short term, there are measures that we can take, you know. Let's have some more inclusion. These are just deliberate measures that government can take, you know. It is very impossible for government to think that a particular section, right, can be directly or indirectly excluded, you know, from political calculations. You know, every citizen, every section of the society have a permanent yearning. And that permanent yearning is a sense of belonging. Sense of belonging, you know, and of course, that's a hallmark, the ultimate desire of every citizen. You know, you want to have that deep-seated sense of, it's a psychological state, you know, no citizen should be denied. And if there's a semblance of it, whether real or imagined, it needs to be addressed. Otherwise, we'll continue to see this kind of outburst, which is very, very disturbing, really. I would just hope that the government will do the right thing. And one thing that Prof mentioned, I agree with him, is that some other practical steps can be taken, like the release of Nnamdi Kano, for instance. I don't know what is stopping that from happening. Perhaps some kind of temporary relief. Perhaps some of these restless youths, might have, you know, some reasons to have a rethink. And from then on, you can begin to go into some consultation. Why I also believe that these people are not spirit. I remember in the build-up to the Anambra election, there were fears that the election was not going to hold in Anambra. But certainly, some of these guys, they shed their swords, as the case could be, and elections held. So which means that there must have been some underground backdoor consultation, and probably we're expecting that to happen in the case of Imo election as well. So are we going to be talking to them just on account of elections, just because elections are coming? It shouldn't be. You know, what about the economy of those places that are suffering? What about the fact that people cannot continue with their lives anymore? Southeast used to be a popular place where people retire to during Christmas, during celebrations, but now people fear to go during those celebrations. You know, and there are even reports that people are exiting the place, getting homes in nearby Delta states, you know, staying put in Lagos, staying put in Abuja. I mean, any kind of thing that would disturb people's regular life should definitely be avoided. And I think the ball still comes back to the course of the government. And I do believe they also have the ability to do it, you know.
Right. Okay.
But what it takes is concerted thinking, deliberate measures, you know, not just in the kinetic sphere, right, but also in the non-kinetic channels.
Very measured advice. Prof, thank you very much indeed. Professor Abiodun Adeniyi is a professor of communications at Bayes University in Abuja. He's also a current affairs analyst. That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.